Wolfe and Brennan in the morning.
And we're back again. Today we are discussing Introduction to Film. I'm Wolfe, as always, and I'm joined with Brennan.
Hello.
All right, so last week we talked about Spanish 101. Now we've moved on to Introduction to Film. And this is now, I think, the second episode that has, like, a class title as, like, the title of the episode, which I think is really fun for this show to do.
Yeah, it is a very creative way to name the episodes.
I would agree, yes. Like, it's fun to have, like, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Introduction to Film, or, like, just other different class titles. It's really fun. I like that they do
I
it.
wish Advanced Dungeons & Dragons was a class somewhere. That'd be awesome.
Yes, that would be awesome to have, like, an actual Dungeons & Dragons class.
Yeah.
But anyway, to recap this episode, Introduction to Film, this is the third episode of the series, Jeff convinces several members of the study group to take an accounting class with him for the easy grade. Oh, wait, we didn't do...
Oh, right.
We didn't do an Old White Man Says.
Old White Man Says. All right, so...
Do you have one ready?
Yes, I do. So this one actually happened a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So the way where I live works, or not live, work, the place where I work, the way it works is we have, like, independent living, but then we also have assisted living and then hospice care, all in the same, like, facility. When a resident needs some more help, they'll move from independent to however severe it is, right? The problem is, a lot of the times the residents don't tell us when they start needing help, so the nurses end up finding out when there's an emergency.
Oh.
So the latest one, they went straight from independent living to hospice care. So they just skipped the assisted living completely.
Wow.
But the way it was kept hidden from us. So one of the married couple has dementia. And so I'm trying to say this without saying gender because HIPAA things and all that.
Right, yeah.
This resident fed their spouse CBD gummies to keep that resident quiet.
Wait. CBD gummies to keep them quiet.
So they didn't tell the nurses that they need help because they didn't want to move over. So the resident with dementia was feeding the other one CBD gummies.
That's fucking clever, but also just so bad.
Yeah. So now, like, they're in the hospice care and they each have, like, their own room.
Good.
And the resident with dementia is coming over and still trying to feed CBD gummies. But the nurses found out about it, and so they've just replaced the gummies with fruit snacks.
Hey, you know what? Modern problems require modern solutions.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, that's what's going on right now.
That's wild. Honestly, I kind of hope my future wife, if she ever gets dementia, starts feeding me CBD gummies to stay quiet. That'd be so funny.
It would be if you didn't need the help that these residents need.
Yes, right, yes. I don't want to make light of their situation.
They're in hospice care, which I don't know if our listeners know what that means, but that means, like, there's nothing the doctors can do for them, so they're just waiting to die, basically.
Yeah.
So most of the time they're bedridden and they have to be changed, and it's sad to see. So if we had caught that they needed help earlier, we might have been able to prevent them from being on hospice already.
Yeah. Or at least delay it.
Yeah. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's what an old white man did.
Yeah. All right. Let's deviate from the depressing track and back to the episode.
Yes. Now for the actual recap.
Yes.
So, as I was saying, Jeff convinced several members of his study group to take an accounting class with him for the easy grade. Some chose to, others didn't. Doesn't matter who, really. But meanwhile, Britta pays for Abed to take a film class at the community college since his dad will only pay for classes that will help him with the family business. The professor of this class noticed that Jeff is just taking the class to blow it off, so he tells Jeff to legitimately seize the day by the end of the week, or he fails the class. Basically, he's Robin Williams in this episode. Shenanigans ensue for the rest of the episode as Jeff attempts to convince the professor he is seizing the day. Abed films his documentary and deeply confuses the group while doing so, mostly Britta. And finally, Pierce helps Troy change his image by sneezing like a man.
Yes. Great episode.
Oh, fantastic episode. The first thing I noticed when I finished it is that there's not just an A and a B plot this episode. Like most episodes, you just have A and B. This one also has a C plot with like Troy having his baby sneezes and being self-conscious about it, then Pierce helping him reshape his image by one, ditching the Letterman jacket that he really should have ditched sooner.
Yeah.
And also making his sneezes control the room instead of being these like, achoo! It's more like a
Yep.
And so that's the C plot. It only gets 2 minutes of the episode, but still, like, that's a third plot in the episode, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah. It makes it, for lack of a better way to put this, feel more real. Like, it already feels like a real thing that could happen, like the show, because it's community college and it's not...
Yeah.
You can relate to a lot of the characters, but having more than 2 stories going on at once makes it feel real. That makes sense.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. So my thoughts on the story, at least, just overall before we get into like the nitty gritty of it. In my opinion, I think the A plot, while entertaining, is not really as compelling as story-wise as the B plot. And so in this case, I'm saying that the A plot is Jeff trying to seize the day. The B plot would be Abed doing his film and Britta trying to help pay for it and stuff.
Yep.
And, like, though the B plot is confusing, you get more depth on Abed's personal life and childhood, and you really get a satisfying end with Abed being understood by his dad, finally.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, like, that whole, like, Abed using film to express what he's feeling and thinking is really well done.
I agree.
Because, honestly, so in my notes, I've got, like, the autism Asperger's comparison. Like...
Yeah.
And basically, just what I have written down is that Abed expressing his emotions through what he thinks through a different medium actually makes a lot of sense. People on the spectrum have a harder time, in general, not always, but in general, have a harder time describing what they're feeling, or putting their emotions in a way that other people can understand what they mean.
Yeah.
Like personally, I'm not good at putting words to what I'm feeling. So like a lot of the times. Like, I just have a playlist on YouTube Music that's just called Emotions, and it's for, like, different things that I'm feeling, so I can just play that song for people because I can't understand.
That's genius.
I know, right? Like,
I need to do that.
I can't express, like, when I'm upset, I can't express, like, what I'm upset about without making it seem less than it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I also don't really know why I'm upset half the time. Or if I'm just happy. Yeah, I have my face doesn't really show emotion as much.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I think having known you for like 5 years, I can, when Brennan's expressing his facial expressions, you have to know him for a while, and then you can kind of read him more.
Yeah, it's a lot more subtle.
Yeah, it's a lot more subtle, and you can tell once you get to know him, so.
Yeah.
I'm talking about you as if you're like a third person.
Yeah, so...
Luma, stop scratching the curtains. Sorry, guys, my cat is being obnoxious. I just got these new curtains today. They're blackout curtains because I was telling Brennan about this earlier. I have a car wash that's right next door to my apartment building, and there's these lights on 24/7, these bright lights, because you can go through this car wash at any time. It's self-serving. And so these lights shine not directly into my window, but like it just shines out so much that it goes through my window. So I've had to use a sleeping mask for the past couple months that I've been living here, which is fine. Like, I'm used to that anyway whenever people have, like, lights on when they sleep, because I've known a couple people to do that. But I got these curtains so I could actually block out the light completely. It's also supposed to help me basically start winding down for the day, because I have to work early mornings, and it's still light out when I go to bed sometimes, so having these curtains is going to help out too, especially in the evenings. Yeah. So my cat loves to look out the window, as cats do, and so she's kind of scratching at them to get them open, but that's enough of a side tangent. So where were we at? Yeah, expressing emotions through other means besides verbalizing it, and I actually had that note written down too, because like I actually had another note about something Abed did that I think is kind of like a little bit autistic. At least whenever I do it, it is.
What was it? Because I may have it written down too.
Whenever he's like super focused on making his documentary and they're like, how's class going? Did you go to class? He just gives like these super basic responses, like one words are like very brief, and he just like doesn't deviate from what he's doing. Like he doesn't look away from the camera. He's just hyper focused on it.
Yeah, his hyper fixation. Yep. I actually had my small group over last night, and we watched the first 5 episodes of the show.
Oh, dang.
So, like, I got home from work yesterday, watched this episode, took notes on it. Then about 2 hours later, they showed up, and then we watched the first 5 episodes. But,
nice.
Like, something that I told them at the beginning was, like, just so y'all are aware, like, my current, like, autistic hyperfixation is this show. So if I start, like, explaining all these background knowledge things that you don't need to know, and it's starting to get annoying, let me know. Like, it's the hyperfixation. You get so focused on what you're doing or what you enjoy.
Yeah.
That you just kind of forget other people may not experience it as much as you do or like it as much as you do.
Right. Or even be interested in the conversation at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
But also, like, the thing is, like, I'll give those, like, really basic one-word responses, too. Even if I'm not hyper-focused on something, I'll give those answers if I really don't have any interest in sharing. Like, that's why small talk doesn't always work for me, because if I don't care to share the information to keep the conversation going, I'll just do the one-word response. Or or I might ask how they're doing back, or like ask them a question because I feel like I don't have anything to add or share. So I will just efficiently answer the question with the one-word answer.
Yep.
And to me, like, it's efficient. I've answered your question.
Yeah.
My brother did that earlier today, and he's not on the spectrum. So I guess it's like, it's not solely autistic. But I definitely feel like autism definitely does have a role to play in that.
It's a bit more prevalent among people on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, a lot of people, from what I understand, will give one-word answers. Like you said, when it's, they don't have anything to offer or they're just not interested in the conversation. Me, personally, I may be interested in a conversation. I may be invested. But I still oftentimes give that short answer. It's not that I don't care. It's just that, like, it's efficient. I'm not going to talk more than I need to.
Right.
And I don't really have anything else to offer. That covered all that I want to say. So why would I drag it on, you know?
That's fair. And I'm working on that because I do want to be able to, like, talk with my friends and get closer to them. So I've selected people to do that with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, if you're comfortable with people, it's easy to talk and open up more. But, like, for example, my small group every week, we have praises and prayer requests. Mine are always real short, just if I speak up at all, just because I don't know all of them well enough. There's a small group that I am very close to, but there's a lot of people who I don't know at all, or I just have talked to them in passing, or that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So it really does depend on the person, but it takes me a long time to figure out who the people are I can trust.
Yeah. Well, even like with the people I trust, like I would struggle with that too. So it got to a point where I was like, you know what? Like the only way I'm going to be able to talk to people is if I actually share stuff about my life. And actually, I didn't realize that about myself. People told me, like, you're like a very closed book. Like you don't share much at all. Like anytime like we talk to you, like we have to like ask deeper questions to like get the information we're wanting, or not in those words, that's just how I'm phrasing it, but they said like to get to know you we have to ask you these like more specific questions and really probe deeper. So I realized, okay, maybe I should just volunteer information even if I don't feel like it's necessary or really adding anything to the conversation. I'll do it. And so I've started doing that with my girlfriend. I'll share pretty much everything with her.
Interesting. Yeah.
And she has specifically told me that's okay to like do that, and she likes to hear about my interests and stuff. So
that's good.
So I knew, okay, you're a safe person to do this with. Then there's my coworker. I'll leave him nameless, but he was like the one who trained me on the job, and I've realized, oh, you're also a nerd too. So I realized, okay, there's some things we can talk about that I like, and you're going to be engaged in the conversation and want to keep talking. So, and there's a few other people here and there that I can kind of talk to whatever about, and I can just offer up information about myself whenever I think it's necessary, or if I want to grow closer to that person. And it's Definitely a slow process. I'm not sure if it's masking or adaptation, but I don't think it really matters which it is, because either way, like, I'm growing closer to people in the way that, like, feels natural to them. And for years, I've done a lot that hasn't been natural for me, so it's just become comfortable at this point.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Like, I am the adapter, basically.
It's definitely interesting hearing that perspective, because, like, you kind of went from being more closed off to learning to open up.
Well, it's actually, so I think we did have a similar journey. I think I know what you're about to say, because you said you used to open up, now you're, like, more closed off.
Yeah. And now I'm learning to kind of open up more again, but not all the way as I used to.
Yeah, that's my journey too.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was, as a kid, I would talk everyone's ear off, and it even got to a point where people would be like, people don't want to hear about that, or it's like, I don't understand what you're talking about, so then I became closed off.
Yep.
Not just about my interests, but about a lot more.
Yeah.
Even with my family, too. So
Yeah.
now it's like, now that people actually want to, like, get to know me and want to hear about what I like, and just what about, like, things I enjoy, now I'm having to learn how to open up again. So it's, I think we're going on that same journey.
It's a weird, like, because, like, growing up, we, at least, I say we, because we've had the same experience and journey, but with our slight differences, because obviously we're not the same person, but, like, it's a weird kind of, for me, it was, I got so invested in what I was doing that I would just talk about it, and it would annoy the crap out of people.
Yeah.
And now it's like, all the stuff that I nerded out on growing up, no one wanted to hear about, because it was all sports, and sports were the most important thing, right?
Yeah, gosh.
I was born a few years too early, is what I like to say.
Yeah.
Because now it's like the MCU and Star Wars and all these things are popular now. And I was like, I was a nerd before being a nerd was cool.
Yep, same here.
I guarantee you, if we grew up and we were both, like, sports people and all we talked about was sports, it would have been slightly different. Like, sure, we still would have annoyed people, but I don't think it would have been as quick.
No, I think it would have been more acceptable, because sports was a lot more commonplace back then.
Yeah, exactly.
And knowing both of our circles, it's really not that commonplace in our circles, at least.
No,
Although I have been in circles where it is a lot more prevalent, and I've known people who have cared a lot about it. So it's not to say sports isn't popular, because it absolutely still is. I mean, they're still playing the games.
Yeah. Like, I will intentionally, like, a couple of my friends, we went to the baseball game in Cincinnati one time.
Yeah.
They are all sports fans. I was just there for the experience because it was on May 4th, so it was Star Wars themed. And that was the reason, that was the reason I was there. Like, I got a little bobblehead from it. That was the entire reason I went.
Nice. That's awesome.
I didn't care about the sport at all. I just went to be with friends and get a Star Wars thing. I remember, like, I know what, like, the terminology of sports are because I grew up with it, right? I just didn't care.
Right.
So whenever one of the guys hit a home run, I leaned over to one of the guys and was like, that's a touchdown, right? Just to, like, annoy the hell out of him. And he just looked at me just extremely depressed and was like, I'm going to throw you off this balcony if you say that again. So naturally,
oh my gosh.
Naturally, the rest of the game, every time there's a home run, I asked him if it was a touchdown. Or one time I said that's a three-pointer, or all these different, like, wrong terms.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
The only time I've cared about sports is if I'm playing it and good at it. Because, like, bowling, like, I'm decent at that. I can get strikes and stuff in that. And that's fun for me because, like, I'm getting points. I'm winning. But it's also, like, fun because I'm active in doing it.
Yeah.
I don't care to watch sports.
Yeah, no.
Like, I'd rather be participating in it, and I know most sports I'd be horrible at.
I think the only, like, sport that I care about, or cared about at one point in my life, was I played basketball for... Have you ever heard of Upward, Wolf?
Yeah, I've heard of Upward.
Yeah.
I had no idea you played basketball, though.
In, like, third grade.
Oh, yeah. That's like me with soccer.
It was basketball to the point where, like, you could only guard one person in the other team. And if they had a breakaway and you were there and the person supposed to be guarding that kid was behind him, too bad.
Wow.
So it was just like, it wasn't really basketball. It was more, I mean, it was, but it was very controlled and not.
It's almost like t-ball for basketball.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think like I'll play volleyball for fun with friends. I'm not gonna play it competitively.
No, that's how I am with bowling. I'm not going to play bowling competitively.
I'd rather play sports for fun than be competitive.
Yeah,
Like
that's where I'm at.
Like if you just have like a friendly bet going or something, that's all right. But like on an actual like organized team, there's just too much pressure for me.
Yeah. Well, like the casual stuff like 9 square,
Yeah.
octoball, or gaga ball, because most people call it that, but
Yeah.
there's 8 sides. It's octoball. What the fuck is a gaga
Yeah,
besides
what
the
was-
lady?
Wasn't it called Octoball at Spring Hill, or did they call it Gaga?
It was octoball at Spring Hill, but a
Okay,
bunch
yeah.
of people still called it gaga ball anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I know that gaga ball is the more popular name. I refuse to call it that. It is
Same. I've always
octoball
called
to
it-
me.
I've always called it Octoball.
Yeah. So like casual sports like that are fun because like you're
Yeah.
doing it with friends. It's everyone's kind of at a similar skill level. We're all noobs at it. No
Yeah.
one's doing this professionally, so it's
Yeah.
like fun. Like casual stuff like that is fun for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that sports are really hard for a lot of autistic people to engage with because like it doesn't really like make sense to them unless
Now,
they're
like-
participating in it.
Yeah. Like there's a few like people we have a family friend who's on the spectrum, and he can tell you baseball stats from the early 1900s, and
Whoa.
like he just has all of them memorized to like from like when baseball first started keeping stats to now. Like that's his like hyper focus. That's his thing.
That's his like
So,
special
like,
interest.
You can ask him how many home runs did this player hit in this year, and he can just rattle it off to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, people with autism also tend to love, like, numbers, too. So,
Yeah.
actually, so stuff like that, I think, actually really makes sense for people with autism to, like, kind of be into those statistics. Like,
Yeah.
I'd actually probably be more interested in the statistics of the game than the game itself, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that makes sense, I guess. There's a lot of numbers involved in sports, and, I mean, like, there's different, like, mascots and characters, sort of, to get into as well. So I guess stereotypically people with autism don't usually do much with sports, but it's definitely not foreign for them to do that because there's definitely things that interest me about sports that wouldn't interest any normal sports fan.
Yeah.
But
Personally, I think like the only time I was a sports fan was my grandparents loved the Phoenix Suns.
gotcha.
And I think Steve Nash was the point guard for them at that point. So it was like 2000s,
Gotcha.
maybe the 2000 teens, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But it was early on in my life. So like I could name off all the players because every weekend they had us all over to watch the game. So it was to see my grandparents. So naturally I went, right?
Yeah.
And watched basketball. I could name off the players, but that was about it. I can't do that now. The only one I remember is Steve Nash and something Lopez, and he had a big afro.
Nice.
Those are the only two sports people I can name.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to the episode.
Yes.
I think that was a long enough tangent.
I agree. Yeah, we got very off track, but because we were talking about like autism, and that's kind of my not my special interest. It's my hyper focus right now.
Yeah.
And you also have been dealing with it for so many years, and Abed doing the autistic stuff,
Yeah.
like just kind of got us both geeking out and on this whole other rabbit hole. That we, But hey, you know what? Now we're a proper podcast because this happens all the time on on podcasts.
Yes. All
But
right.
yeah, so beforehand, before we talked about Abed being autistic and doing the stuff that we relate to, I was talking about how I liked the B plot more than the A plot, and the C plot's fun too, but again, it only had 2 minutes of screen time, and I agree with you, it does make the college feel a little more realistic, like there's a lot of stuff going on, but also it gave 2 characters screen time that didn't really have much of a presence in the other stories,
Yeah.
which was that being Pierce and Troy.
Yeah.
So like they got some more screen time. So really, it was basically just Shirley and Annie that kind of took a step to the side for this
they
episode.
took a back seat for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, they traded with Abed
Yeah.
because last week Abed was the one who kind of took a back seat, and now
Yeah.
it's Shirley and Annie who were kind of like spearheading that whole protest in the B plot last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were my notes on the episode as a whole, but
All right, yeah.
as always, I have notes on like different moments in the episode that I think
Yeah.
worked really well, funny moments.
The only like moment as a whole for the episode that I have written down is like it's not just this episode, it's the beginning of the show. Spoiler, well, not really a spoiler, but you know, it'll still be interesting to see how his character evolves without this spoiler.
Yeah.
But it's weird that they tried to make Britta cool at the beginning. Like, have you noticed that? Like,
It is
Britta's-
going back now. Like when
they're
you go back
trying
and watch it.
Like, they're trying to make Britta the cool one at first,
Yeah.
and it
And
just,
like I think it works
Yeah.
to a degree, but
then if you know the rest of the show, it doesn't.
yeah,
work.
if you know the rest of the show, like it kind of feels jarring when you know the rest of the show.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think I like her character more as it goes on.
Yeah, I like the change they make for her character a lot better than if she continued being the cool one.
I agree. Yeah.
I think, like, eventually Jeff actually makes a comment later on in the show. Is like, when we first met, weren't you smarter than me?
he's made a couple comments like that throughout the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, which I think is them poking fun at themselves, which is great.
Yeah.
But,
And
yeah.
I really think it is them letting Gillian Jacobs show more of her self in the character.
Yeah.
Because she's just naturally a really goofy person and does a lot of like silly, weird stuff. Britta was not like that at all starting out.
Oh, no, not at all.
I think that she pulled it off. I think Gillian pulled it off really well.
She did. She did a great job pulling it off, yeah.
But then as time went on and they like got to know the actress better and they got to know the characters better, they kind of wrote her to be a little less that way. And I feel like Gillian really shines as bizarre Britta, basically.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, so that's really neat.
So, what's your, like, trivia for this episode?
I have some trivia, but I have other notes on like
Okay. Oh,
just
okay.
like not like overall notes, just like little like pieces that I thought were
Oh,
funny.
yeah,
So
let's do that first and then trivia at the end.
yeah, we'll wrap up with trivia and the Meow Meow Beans. So it's kind of organized from the start of the episode to the end. And this is right after the tag, I think. Or no, it's during the tag, the opening intro, when Jeff goes to his class and he gets Professor Whitman, who's the Robin Williams character, basically. And whenever he says, "Men fear death to the point of weeping, yet we spend a third of our life sleeping," every time I watch this episode, that sentence gives me an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fair. Like, we have, like, I don't know, we live, like, 60, 80 years, and then, like, 20 to 30 of that is spent asleep.
Yeah. I mean, there's 24 hours in a day. You sleep for about 8 of it, so that's a third of the day.
Yeah, so you spend, like, a third of your life not dead, because you still experience, like, I guess you still, like, maybe some people don't dream, but you still experience
don't.
dreams. You don't dream?
Well, like, I do, I just never remember them.
That's fair.
I think when we were at, like, family camp growing up, I talked in my sleep all the time. So I was clearly having a dream.
Yeah.
There is one dream I can remember at 24 years of age.
Wow.
So, yeah, the rest of the dreams, I can't tell you what they were. If you ask me in the morning, I'm not going to know.
That's fair. I mean, I don't remember them, like, I can remember some of them vividly. Others are very vague. And, like, as I'm describing it, details start to come back from it. But most dreams that I've had ever, just right into the recycling bin.
Yeah.
Which, there's a line about this later in the episode where Britta's talking about how Abed should follow his dreams, and his dad Gobi says dreams are for sleeping. She's like, "You don't know that," and he's like, "It's clinically proven."
It's a great line.
It is such a great moment. Like, this episode has so many iconic moments.
Yeah.
And while we were on dreams, I just thought I'd like bring up that line because that's such a funny moment.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I think so I'm just gonna like go through the funny moments and quotes that I enjoyed
Yeah.
through I just write them down in order, so I'll go through the order they happen.
Yeah, and I'll probably have some of the same ones you do
Yeah.
too. So we'll just like hop back and forth basically.
I know you've got longer the notes than me, so you just like fill in what I miss.
Okay.
Pierce going voice command to his phone. Like for a split second, like I got home from work right yesterday, turned it on, first thing I did when I got home, and when that scene came on, I had to double check that I was at home. It was just such a, I almost said the name of where I work, such a like work moment of
It's such a
seniors.
retirement home thing to do.
Yes, like I've had residents try to voice text,
Yeah.
and it's a disaster.
Yeah. What's funny is what I wrote about that is like everyone looks clearly annoyed at Pierce except for two people. It's Abed and Shirley. Abed's just spinning a piece of paper on a pencil.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He's fidgeting. He's doing his stimming or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And Shirley, he's not paying attention, but Shirley looks like she feels sorry for Pierce.
Yeah, I think like Shirley is for me, being 24, it's different for me than the adults. Well, I am an adult, but like the 50s and 60-year-olds who aren't in the nursing home yet.
Right.
But they still know the struggle of trying to learn technology, but they're able to learn it better than the residents.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where Shirley is.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
I mean, she's
Shirley
only
is-
in her 30s in this.
Yeah, but she's kind of got that mom vibe to the rest of the crew.
Parenting and having children definitely makes you age up a bit.
Yeah, so with her, she's kind of like that middle ground of Pierce having no clue what technology is or how to operate it. Everyone else thinking it's the easiest thing ever. Shirley's kind of in that middle ground.
Yeah, I agree.
So she can understand where he's coming from because she's struggled with things when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And of course, Abed just does not care. Like, it's funny because, like, some sounds and stuff will bother people with autism, but then there are others we can just easily tune out and just not care about. That would easily annoy other people.
Like, I've gotten really good at just, like, shutting down willingly.
Yeah.
Like, I can almost... There's the overstimulation shutdown, which sucks to go through.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I hate that.
But then there's just, like, the shutdown where I just zone everything out on purpose, and it's, like, it's actually restful.
Yeah.
Like, for me, my shutdown time, like, when it's not overstimulation, a lot of the times it's just watching Star Wars in my head.
There you go.
Like, I don't have to interact with anything around me. And I don't have to deal with anything around me. I can just escape to my own little fantasy land.
There you go.
Abed and Troy have something for that later where they do that. But
Yeah.
without spoiling what it is, it's a great... Anyway.
It is a great bit. I'll do that too sometimes. Like, sometimes it's not on purpose. Sometimes I'll just get to a thought and just start chasing it.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah.
it seems like I've shut down or spaced out, but, like, I'm just, like, in my head thinking about things that are really trivial. And then other times I'll just daydream about, like, what I want to do with my free time when I get home or, like, what projects I want to work on.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of them. Like, this podcast is one of the projects that I kind of cycle through daydreaming about. There's others that are like videos, music I want to make, like this Mandalorian armor that I want to work on.
Nice.
Then there's also the podcast, and then I just keep going, and I'm like, oh, we could do this show, we could do that show,
You
could do this thing for community.
Yeah. You making the Mandalorian armor with your printer?
Yeah, some pieces. The rest,
Okay.
like, the soft parts, definitely not.
Yeah, no. The helmet and the breastplate and like the
Yeah, well, I'll do
gauntlets
the gauntlets and the knees with my 3D printer. The rest
Okay.
I can use like PVC sheets and like heat shape and cut to my exact size. So
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the worst. So we both have 3D printers, but like sizing things to like costumes to fit you is a nightmare. Like right now I'm working on sizing a helmet to fit my head. I've printed 4 Clone Trooper helmets and all 4 of them have failed.
ooh,
Like the supports have failed at the visor, but then like the one that made it through was too small. So,
it was too small. Oh no.
yeah. So I'm having to like I found out you can cut just like a little sliver, like cut the top of it off so there's just a little sliver where it's like the entrance and print that
Yeah.
out. But now my printer's having issues.
Oh, that
So
sucks.
the bed leveling is having issues.
It's always with the bed leveling.
It wouldn't like adhere for a while at first, and then I forgot that like you're supposed to apply like glue to it for a while every few months or so.
Yeah, unless you have a heated bed.
Yeah. See, I have a heated bed, but it doesn't do anything to help with adhesion.
Yeah.
So basically what Reddit told me to do was to get that purple glue from like elementary school?
Yeah.
The purple glue sticks?
Yeah.
You just get that and like smear that on the bed, and it doesn't cause any damage or anything. It'll evaporate after a while.
Yeah.
So that's what I use, and it works. So for those of you who are listening, have 3D printers and are struggling with that, there you go.
Yeah. Glue sticks work wonders on 3D printers.
You can buy like special 3D glue for that, but that's overpriced, and just buy some normal glue.
Yeah. But yeah, so now that we've gone on
Back on
another
topic.
tangent, maybe I'll 3D print something for community one day, and then I can share it on the podcast, and it'll be relevant. But anyway,
I'll print that template I showed you. I'll print that out next time I get a chance.
ooh, there you go.
I sent that to you, right?
Maybe. I don't remember it if you did.
Okay. Let me check. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, while you do that. So, going back to the opening where Jeff is in Professor Whitman's class, I noticed how he's like, throw your shoes across the room. No one does it. They just toss them to the side of their desk. Mm-hmm. No one does it energetically at all. They all just kind of like, okay, just toss it off to the side. I think the actor who portrays Whitman actually captures Robin Williams really well.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Without being a complete copy.
Yeah, like he's definitely made his own Dead Poet Society, but he's definitely like it's very clear he's imitating Robin Williams.
Yeah. He's meant to be an imitation, not an exact replica.
Yeah.
But yeah, and some other funny moments. There was a lot of funny quotes, and
yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Like one of them was how Abed just goes, 9/11 was the 9/11 of the falafel business.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just it's just a funny way to describe it.
Yep. Which is like, it's wild because like, remember that like thing where it's like, you can joke about something 20 years later or something like that?
Yeah.
So like, there was this big thing when 2002, I think, is 20 years late, or 2001. So,
2001, yeah.
So 2021 was 20 years later. So there was this big thing where it was like, it's finally funny.
Yeah.
And like this came out when? Like 2009? And they were already making jokes about it?
Yeah.
I think
that's where a lot of our dark humor comes from, at least our generation.
Yeah. Our generation started out with that.
Yeah. We don't remember it, but we remember people talking about it.
Yeah. I was 1 when it happened.
Yeah. And there was a bunch of people I know who are a few years older than me that do remember it. Like, they showed it in their schools, but they were young. They didn't realize, they were like, oh no, that's bad. But they didn't realize the, like, lasting repercussions of it. So
yeah,
they kind of developed this, like, kind of sick, dark humor that kind of stems from 9/11, I think, which is really funny.
Because, like, our generation is one of the first to have an openly dark sense of humor the way we do.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of, like, my dad, for example, I could never make any of my, like, a lot of my jokes around him because he would not be happy.
Yeah.
Like, but granted, like, I'm an adult now, it's not a big deal, or I'm my own person. But it's a weird, like, balance I have to, like, censor myself when I'm at a family gathering.
Yeah.
I've got, like, 2 quotes that I can't decide what my favorite ones are. Actually, 3.
Ooh.
Like, I can't decide between these 3. So, the first quote is just a, like, conversation between Annie, Jeff, Troy, and Pierce. Shirley says something, and Annie says, Shirley, that's the most racist thing I've ever heard. And Jeff goes, Pierce will beat that in 1 minute. And after, like, a couple of other things, Troy goes, you're not my mother, to Shirley. And Pierce goes, she's not? And Jeff just goes, and 29 seconds.
Yes, I have that one written down too.
That one, that's one of my favorites of this episode. The next is they're making fun of Troy for his girly sneeze, and he goes, well, how about I pound you like a boy? That didn't come out right.
That is such an iconic moment, and it's only in the 3rd episode of the series.
It's there was no hesitation. Like, he realized it immediately after he said it.
Yes, that is one of my favorite moments of the entire show. I will not lie.
Yeah.
Like, it is so funny.
It is. And then the other one is Jeff, or Abed saying, Jeff, I think you should play the role of my father. Jeff says, I don't want to be your father. And Abed goes, perfect. You already know your lines.
Yes.
Like,
That was, believe it or not, that was actually the first thing of Community that I ever saw that I can remember.
Really?
Like I just saw that, not even that clip. I just saw a meme that captured like those 3 lines.
Dang.
And I think they put someone else like on Abed and Jeff, so it wasn't actually them. But
you just brought up like a core memory.
really,
Like, I remember seeing that meme,
yeah.
but I think it was like they put Luke and Vader's faces on it. But it was Luke saying, I don't want to be your son, or something like that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't remember who was on the one I saw, but that was the first Community thing that I had ever seen that I know of. I probably could have seen stuff before that and just didn't know it, but that's the first thing I ever saw from that show. And when I saw it in the show, I was like, it's the meme. It's the meme. And the fact that this is in the same episode as Troy gonna pound Jeff like a boy moment, like, oh my goodness. They have 2 super great, funny moments in the same episode, which is a lot of these episodes, actually. Yeah. Yeah. And this stuff's iconic outside of the show, too. Like, for people who aren't fans of the show, I think they find the, like, how about I pound you like a boy hilarious. And I know people have seen the, like, oh, that's perfect, you already know your lines meme.
Yeah, that was a big one for a while.
Yeah.
I think some of the other good quotes that I have are Abed talking about a documentary and how they're just movies with real people, or they're real movies but with ugly people.
Yep.
I think is how he said it. That was good. I went to Asbury University for 2 years, which is a big film school.
Yeah.
The film building is actually a registered museum because of how many movie props we have there.
Ooh.
Next time you come down to visit, Wolf, I'll have to take you in there.
Yes.
It'll have to be during the school year because it's locked up during the summer.
Damn.
But
well, I'm not adhered to a school schedule anyway.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. But they have so in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, the pod racing scene with the little the aliens in the stands.
Oh yeah.
They have those, but those aliens are just Q-tips that were touched up with CGI. We have some of those Q-tips.
You have the Q-tips. I thought you were gonna say you had like the seating with the Q-tips.
No. Like we have some of the seating too.
Oh, that's awesome.
We being Asbury University.
Yeah.
But then we have some of the gumballs from Bedtime Stories. We have Black Panther's shoes. The gun from the first Captain America movie that was used to kill the doctor guy. We have an unused Spider-Man breastplate for Infinity War. We have some Endgame props. Wonder Woman's belt. Part of Superman's costume from Smallville, I think. We have 3 of the 4 statues from Prince Caspian. So we have...
Ooh.
We have Peter, Edmund, and Lucy. I think the person who owns Susan doesn't want to sell. So we have Peter and Edmund guarding the entrance to the building.
That's awesome.
And I think Lucy's downstairs somewhere.
Nice.
So, yeah,
I'll have to see that one day.
So, that kind of reminded this quote. Anyway, that tangent was referring to this quote because, like, it's such a huge film school that, like, everyone has a film class at some point. Mm-hmm. And this quote by Abed talking about the new camera that he got and saying, yeah, but it lets me adjust really specific settings that most people don't notice or think about. That made me laugh hard because of how many times I heard film students discussing these different filters, and I would watch them discuss it and show each other examples, and to my untrained eye, I didn't notice a thing. There was nothing different.
I mean, I didn't notice a difference between his first and second camera, honestly, in the show.
No, not at all. That was one of the difficulties of going to this school, because watching movies with the film students was sometimes difficult because they would just criticize it based off of, oh, I wouldn't have shot it from that angle, or all these weird things that I never even thought about.
Yeah.
And didn't really care about because I'm not a film student. So it was a weird new way to watch movies that I didn't really enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I was a film student for a brief period. Mm-hmm. Even that brief period I could still go into something and go from that critiquing angle, but I know how to turn it off.
Yeah.
I can watch something purely for entertainment.
Yeah, we had... The floor I lived on had this tradition called No Woman, No Cry. and that was a 52-hour movie marathon the weekend before midterms. So that was a genius decision on our part. But
yeah.
the rules were like there had to be someone in the room at all times. Like, didn't have to be the same person the whole time, but if you were able to stay awake the whole time, you gained like legend status on the floor.
Ooh, nice.
A whole bunch of these rules. The film students, like, there's a lot. They're all really cool. Like, they're good people, but watching movies with them gets on my nerves after a while because there are certain people who could not turn that side of them off and just enjoy it. So every movie they're complaining about, oh, I wouldn't have shot it from this angle, I would have done it from this way, or this different thing, or this filter. It would get to the point where like it would cover up some of the dialogue that I'm trying to hear from the movie, so I would miss out on certain parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Because they're too busy arguing about how it's not the right angle for that shot.
Yeah, I mean, like,
So, yeah.
discuss that when the movie's done. Like,
Yeah, the song "No Woman No Cry" by Bob Marley has to be played between every movie. So discuss it during that song.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or, like, I don't know, like, okay, I wouldn't have shot it that way. You're not the one who made the movie, jackass. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
these other people made creative decisions because that's what they thought was going to work for the movie. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, sure, you wouldn't have done it, but you didn't make the movie.
Now, I mean, anyone can do better than the last Airbender movie, but we'll move on from there.
Yeah. Oh, we don't talk about that.
So, for our audience, if you've seen that movie,
Bless
I'm
your
glad.
soul.
I am one of those people who am a huge fan of the original show, but I love watching the movie with people for the first time. Like, I hate the movie, but watching people watch it is just enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
I remember Wolf and I watched it. Like, I sat Wolf and our other friend Blake down, and I think we watched through the first season.
Yeah.
And then I told them we could not continue to season 2 and 3 until we watched the movie. So that was, I apologize for that, but at the same time, I had a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Hey, that's fair. And now I can say that the movie is bad, because I don't like to say that a movie's bad unless I've seen it.
I think this is the one movie you can say it's awful without having never seen it. You just need to see that one clip of that earthbending dance.
Yeah, but even then, like, I think having to have sit through the whole movie and experience it gives, like, I feel like it gives my opinion more value.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Like, I know you weren't a fan of the sequels, but I know people would complain about Rise of Skywalker just from reading the plot online.
Actually, I have a funny story about that. Me and my friends at college, we read the leaked plot before it came out, right?
Yeah.
And we're all, like, sitting there dumbfounded, like, there's no way this is real. There's no way Chewbacca gets killed and then he's on another ship with Rey's Force lightning. Like, there's no way it's that easy. There's no way that happens. And we were making fun of it, and they're like, there's no way they do all this.
Yeah.
There's no way Palpatine's back. And so we all bought tickets together to go see it. And, like, throughout the movie, we were just sitting there, like, dumbfounded, staring at each other, because we're like, this is lining up with the script we read, and it's not deviating. What is happening?
That is so bizarre.
It was a wild, like, we thought it was, like, a fan making fun of it. And no.
But, like, there were people, but you actually went and saw the movie, and you decided that you didn't like it and that you thought it was bad. But I knew people who just decided, like, they hated The Last Jedi so much, they weren't even willing to go see Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
They just read the plot online, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm personally not going to count your opinion because you didn't watch the movie, you didn't sit through it, you just read a plot online and decided it was bad without having seen the movie. Because, like, whether you like the movie or not, after seeing it, that's a different story. I'm like, okay, that's fair, and you have your criticisms, but like, actually watch the movie. Like, you don't get to say that the movie's bad if you, like, haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And you don't know if it's bad or not.
with that movie, sure, I despise the sequel trilogy. I think Disney flopped that hard. But when I went, like, so we went to see the movie as, like, a friend group, right? We went to see Rise of Skywalker. And then that, like, My family took a vacation to go see family we hadn't seen in years. And, like, the one thing this side of the family knew about me is I like Star Wars. So they bought us tickets for Christmas. So I went, and this time I turned off the Star Wars fan side of me. I just went as a casual moviegoer. Like, I went into it pretending to not know a thing about Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. Like, visually, it's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. The whole sequel trilogy looks fantastic.
My problem is it breaks a lot of the pre-established lore, in my opinion, at least.
I think that's just Star Wars in general. Like, the prequels did it too.
Yeah. I mean, the prequels kind of, I don't know, they kind of expanded with the midi-chlorians, which was, sure, I don't really enjoy that, but I think it's kind of, it's a cool idea, executed not as cool. But the Force Skype was, and like teleporting lightsabers across from behind your back, and
oh, I always thought that was him like force grabbing it. Huh. I must have seen that scene differently.
Because she just puts her hand like behind her back and lifts it up and it's gone. And if it was just him force pulling it, I think they would have shown it flying across the room. You know?
I guess that's fair, but
and the Force Skype calls that they had, I just thought that was stupid. I didn't make the movie, so it's not my problem.
That's fair.
Yeah.
We're about, well, it'll be edited down.
Yeah.
It'll be edited down, but on my end, it's about an hour in.
Oh, shoot, yeah. We've still got several
We still got a lot to share, but we can run through it quickly. But although I will quickly say the first episode, I think we recorded for almost an hour and a half, and by the time I edited it, I'd gotten it down to like just over an hour, so...
Okay, that's good, yeah.
You guys probably won't be an hour into it at this point.
Yeah,
we're past that point. But anyway, the moment right after Abed talks about 9/11 being the 9/11 of the falafel business, and then he says, like, his dad refuses to pay for film classes because, like, movies are bad because they stereotype Arabs as, like, being bad or whatever. And Troy, his line is, he should see Aladdin. Jafar was a badass.
Yeah.
He went straight for the villain.
He did.
And that's what Gobi Nadir was complaining about with movies, that they stereotype Arabs negatively.
Yeah.
You would have thought he'd go for, like, the main character, Aladdin, the one who's, like, the thief. He does all the cool stuff. Mm-hmm. He has a pet monkey. He goes for the villain.
Yeah. But to be fair, though, Jafar was a badass.
I mean, he's not wrong. In the context, it's just funnier, because it's like, you picked the one bad guy who was Arab from that movie when there were tons of others. Such a great joke. I love it.
Yeah. Anyways, my brain just died. Go ahead.
It happens sometimes. Also, Professor Whitman was so brutal to Annie for no reason.
Yeah, he was.
Like, when he was, like, kind of, like, pushing Jeff a little bit, not literally pushing, but kind of being like, okay, like, you need to actually take my class seriously. Mm-hmm. That made sense. Like, that was him just, like, putting his foot down and being serious. Annie, he just, like, rips into her for no reason. It seems like.
He does. Well, I mean, she was taking notes, and that wasn't very living in the moment. Is that the part you're talking about?
It's that part, yeah. But it's just funny, like, how...
He
like,
overdid it.
He overdid it, absolutely.
Yeah, like, he did not need to yell at her the way he did.
No, and also in that scene, Brennan, you're going to hate me for this.
Okay.
One of Annie's pant legs are rolled up a little bit more than the other. And they are uneven in that classroom scene. And you notice it when she's standing on her desk.
How do you notice this?
Because I saw it and I was like, oh, those pant legs are uneven. And I couldn't stop noticing it. I'm like, Annie, like, you seem like too organized and meticulous a person to let that happen.
I'm going to need to go back and check this now.
Yes, oh my gosh, you're never going to see that scene the same anymore. But, oh my gosh, it drove me nuts. And then shortly after that, Professor Whitman's all like, you're going to fail the class if you don't live in the moment. And then Jeff complains to Britta about it. And they're walking through all these, like, club signups. Mm-hmm. One of them in the background is not Karate Club. It's Karate Kid Club. Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
It's those background details that really get this show to, like, I don't know, it's those background details that just make this show mwah to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's so perfect. Chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm. So I think I've got two more quotes that were a good little funny moments. Was
Yes, let's hear them.
when Jeff was, one of the many times Jeff was trying to prove to Professor Whitman that he was living in the moment, when he did the jump rope scene.
Yeah.
Professor Whitman just going sloppy, and considering the age of these girls, unwittingly creepy. And so last night when I watched it with my small group, one of them pointed it out. Like, they just went, "That's a bit creepy. They seem a bit too young for him to be doing that." And then Professor Whitman said the exact same thing, so it was a funny moment there. And then
Yes.
at the end, when Abed or Britta says, "Did you do all that to me on purpose? That's not a very nice way to treat your friends, Abed." And Abed goes, "Well, Britta, it's not called friend business. It's called show business." And pulls out a cigarette.
That's such a good moment,
Doesn't
too.
even light it. Just sticks it in his mouth and walks away. And she starts freaking out.
Yes.
Great scene.
Oh, yeah. You know who we haven't talked about in a while?
Who?
Pierce and Troy.
Yeah.
Which is why that's my way of segueing to when Pierce has the 2 cans of soda. Troy tries to grab one, and he's like, "No, those are both for me."
Yep. And did you notice that at the end of the scene, one of the cans is crushed?
Yep.
Like, because that there was apparently some part of the episode that was cut. In that cut scene, he crushes the can.
That sounds familiar. It might have been like an outtake or something. I remember in the outtakes, they cut before this happens in the show. Like, Troy gets the other can, like, later on, or Pierce slides it over. In the outtakes, as he slides it over, he actually then slides it back, and he's like, "Just kidding, these are still both for me."
That's great.
Yeah. You know what else I noticed? So, in the pilot, right, Pierce said that he is the CEO of Hawthorne Wipes.
Yeah.
In this episode, he said, "When I was a CEO." So either that's a continuity error, or sometime between the pilot and introduction to film, he either stepped down from CEO or was more likely kicked off of his position.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, knowing Pierce.
Yeah.
Also, during that kite scene, Jeff had like an outfit similar to his pilot one. Sweatpants with the blazer.
Yeah. I think the sweatpants that he's wearing now didn't have the red stripe down the sides. They weren't as obviously sweatpants.
It was a different pair, but yeah.
Yeah.
And Whitman said exactly what we commented on that episode. Said that, like, he was trying to put in, like, or trying to look like he didn't care.
Yeah. Yep. Which is very much Jeff's character throughout the show, is he's trying to look like he doesn't care, but deep down he cares a lot for his friends.
Yep. And about himself. And about his appearance.
Mostly, yeah. But, yeah.
His friends will get roped into that caring later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have other moments?
I just got some, like, trivia moments now.
Okay. I'll just breeze through my last couple
All right,
points.
sweet.
In the study room, there's a racism does not compute poster that I never noticed until this episode. And I thought, oh, that's kind of funny.
They need to show that to Pierce.
Well, that's the thing. Pierce can see it from where he's sitting.
Yeah.
But it still computes for him.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Oh, Pierce. And then, the fact that Abed's dad is into Weezer.
Yeah.
I didn't, like, you wouldn't expect him to be a Weezer fan, but he shows up whenever Jeff, like, lures him to the study room. He's like, "Where's Weezer? You said he'd be here."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was like, Weezer, what? That's not who I thought he'd be into. Let me think about this. Oh, so whenever the movie plays and it's all like sad and stuff, then it just goes Cool Abed Films.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then immediately back into like that lower mood where like Abed's dad is like in tears at his movie.
Yeah.
I love that type of humor where it juxtaposes something completely like random and out of the blue during an otherwise serious moment, but then they can still immediately pull you back into that mood.
Yeah, the emotional roller coaster it takes you on is wild.
I love that. And I love that type of humor, and I love when it's done well. Like, it is done so well there.
Right after the jump rope scene, right? Professor Whitman is lecturing Jeff, saying all these different ways to seize the day, right?
Yeah.
and he ends it with fly a kite, but do it for yourself.
Yeah.
But as he's saying kiss a girl in the middle of the day, it shows Britta walking up at that moment. So that's where she got that idea from.
Yeah.
Which was a cool little connection thing that I'd never noticed before.
And I'm going to go film nerd for a minute, but that kind of like Britta walking in right at that moment is such a like foreshadowing thing to do if you're like, I mean, like, not everyone who's media literate is going to recognize that, but if you're like super into that and you notice that like ahead of time. I noticed that too watching this. I was like, oh, Britta's walking in as he mentions the life-changing kiss.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's either foreshadowing or setting up that Britta's going to do that.
Yeah.
Which is more likely the latter, but it's kind of both. And that isn't, but it's funny that like Whitman, like, he's like, oh, I know a life-changing kiss when I see one. And that was like, maybe it was life-changing for Jeff because he got what he wanted, but like, no.
Yeah.
That was a fake kiss.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is my final point before I get into trivia.
All right.
But I noticed in the end tag, the lighting is different than in the rest of the episode for the study room. Like the lighting in the study room for the end tag.
What was the end tag on this? Was this the crumping?
It was the crumping one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed the lighting looked more like later episodes in season 1 than the earlier ones. Like, I think the paintball episode came to mind when they're in the study room. It looked, and it also more like season 2 and 3. So, and we know those end tags were filmed at a later time.
Yeah.
Because of like Troy and Abed's 101 rap, they filmed that after they were on like the red carpet together, after they'd already written these episodes and filmed these episodes where they're not really pairing Troy and Abed up much.
Yeah.
So then they go back and like tease this friendship earlier on with those end tags, which I think is a fun thing to do with the end tags. Like it kind of like builds up like. Well, the end tags are hilarious for one thing, but also like setting up Troy and Abed as a duo without needing to like reshoot the episode. Like that's a smart way to do it, and it's a funny way to do it too. Yeah. But yeah, shall we get into the trivia?
Yeah, I've only got one that hasn't already been covered.
Oh wow.
So the only one I got was when Jeff storms out after Abed is like, or Jeff says, I think the wrong person just left.
Yeah.
And Jeff storms out after Britta, and the coffee guy is just standing there awkwardly. And the coffee guy just goes, that guy was your dad?
Yeah.
That was actually just the coffee guy improving.
Nice.
That wasn't in the script. So that guy was your dad was just improv. It was great.
That's perfect. You know what else was improv in that episode?
Huh.
The desk falling out from underneath that student.
Wait, that was improv?
It wasn't it was improv on the desk's part. Really, it was a prop failure.
Okay.
But like the desk actually failed and the actors like legitimately fell, and they shot those scenes like after that to kind of like, oh, like okay, well, like let's keep that in. Or these shows, they have multiple cameras, so they're getting different angles at the same. Yeah. But like
severe, like genuinely hurt.
Yeah. But that kind of that also kind of helps Greendale being this like cheaper higher education compared to like the school that they actually were in Dead Poets Society. Mm-hmm. I almost said Red Poets Society. But anyway, my other trivia that I have, that was one of my pieces actually, is that the desk actually fell out from under this person on accident. It wasn't planned. This is going to be one more for my linguists out there. So while the Arabic subtitle in Abed's finished product is admittedly better than most Arabic translations on TV, they use the wrong word for leaving. Whenever he says, I think the wrong person just left, they use the wrong word for left. Instead of using left as in someone leaving the room, they use the left, as in like the direction left. And I cannot accurately pronounce the accurate translation nor the inaccurate one. So if you want to know what exactly the difference is in Arabic, you can go look that up on your own time and attempt to pronounce that yourself. But I do not know Arabic, so I will not even try. And then, actually, I think part of why, this isn't my next trivia piece, part of why I think that John Michael Higgins, he's the guy who plays Professor Whitman, is so good at Robin Williams, is because he actually co-starred with Williams in The Bicentennial Man.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And another reference to, that wasn't a reference to Robin Williams, but this is. Whenever Whitman snaps Jeff's suspenders and says, sorry, these won't cut it, Jeff says Shazbut afterwards, which I didn't know for the longest time what that was. But apparently it's a word that Robin Williams' character Mork in Mork and Mindy uses a lot.
Huh.
And this character Mork also wore rainbow suspenders. Yeah. So I thought that was a neat little piece to share.
I remember hearing something like that in the director's commentary about how Dan Harmon thought about not doing that, but then like his original plan was to do it, and then decided not to do it, and then he was like, luckily I came to my senses and decided to have him say Shawsbot, and he had to pay some royalties or something to have him say that.
Of course he did.
Yeah,
so many royalties were paid.
Yeah.
The song that plays at the beginning of this podcast, Daybreak, they had to use that through most of season 3 of the show because they spent all their music budget on, I forget what song it was. We'll get to it when we get to it. It'll probably be in the trivia.
Okay.
But, so they used the... That's Daybreak. And they used that over and over because that's all they could afford to use music-wise. Because Harmon blew the budget on this other song. So, my goodness, yeah, it makes sense. Dan Harmon's just spending money on all this, like, little stuff. But it just makes the show that much better.
Oh, yeah. And I think, like, from what I've heard, a lot of the money comes from Dan Harmon himself. He paid for a lot of, like, the jokes. Kind of like how Ryan Reynolds paid for being able to wear a t-shirt in Deadpool.
Yeah.
Or things like that. Like, the actors and the directors paid out of their own pocket for a joke in the show or movie.
Yeah. And I know some stuff. I know there was one person on the team of Community that was able to convince, like, basically any, like, bigwig to give him money. Yeah. And I think that also helped the show out a lot because if Dan Harmon had tried to argue for it, if, like, Joe Russo had tried to argue for it, like, they wouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah.
But they had this other producer on their side that would, like, argue for this money and, like, maybe not argue, but more so convince.
Yeah.
And, like, it worked every time, so that helped, too, with them.
That's lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. We got another Ryan Seacrest joke. I didn't know it was one because I don't really know what Ryan Seacrest does. I just know that Jeff Winger happens to look like him. But apparently whenever Gobi tells Jeff to go host American Idol is a reference to Ryan Seacrest, who I assume, based on this joke, hosted American Idol. I mean, I don't know what else you'd get from that, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
It's the second Ryan Seacrest joke in the show because the first one was in the pilot whenever Troy calls him Ryan Seacrest.
Okay, yeah.
And there's many more jokes later on about Ryan Seacrest because of how Joel McHale resembles him. And then, the desk. I already talked about the desk. We don't need to talk about the desk again. On to our rating on the Meow Meow Bean scale.
All right.
Well, I've talked a lot. You want to give yours first?
This is my first 4 out of 5.
Me too.
Yeah, it's, like, the only reason, like, it's... Honestly, the thing that convinced me to give it a 4 was the C plot, or B plot, Abed's whole thing with his father. Like, that's what bumped it up to a 4 for me.
I agree with that. And, like, Abed's plot, like, the humor behind it and all the emotion they were able to convey behind it, like, again, it was deeply confusing, especially to the other characters. Yeah. But you really got to, like, know more about Abed's personal life and childhood through that. And again, like, you got that really satisfying ending with him finally being understood by his dad. Yeah. But then also that and all the bits with, like, hey, Troy sees us like a girl and the, like, I don't want to be your father, and, like, many other moments we've talked about in this episode.
How about I pound you like a boy? That didn't come out right.
Yes, like, all those moments also put this as a 4 for me. And honestly, again, like, Jeff's, the A plot, like, that would be like a 3 Meow Meow Beans, I think. But we're not doing partial Meow Meow Beans. We're doing whole Meow Meow Beans. So this episode gets a solid 4. It is a great episode.
It is.
Yeah. And we got to our first great episode really quickly, and I've realized this too. We've agreed on the rating every single week so far.
We have.
Like, I'm waiting for the day that we finally have different Meow Meow Beans ratings.
Yeah.
Because right now it just seems like we're a hive mind. We think the same things about the show. But I mean, we have some different opinions, but mostly it's like, oh yeah, this is funny. Yeah, I agree. And then Meow Meow Beans 4. Yep, same. I feel like we need to disagree at some point. We'll get there.
Eventually. We'll get there. When I give my 1, I think we'll disagree.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I'll have a 1. I might have a 1. We'll see. I feel like season 4 will be a bit divisive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit forgettable, but also like
It
it's a
has some
weird.
gems.
Yeah, it's a weird season.
It is a very weird
Which when
season.
we get there, we'll cover why it's weird season and all that. But
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've rated the Meow Beans, so we've come to the end of our podcast. Thank you all for listening, as always. Tune in next time when we will review... Let me pull up my schedule real quick. We will review Social Psychology.
sweet. Oh, I love that one.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm excited to review that with you, Brennan. And
same.
until then, we'll see you next time.
All right, see you guys.